most commonly missed tax deductible expense, which I see missed out of so many self-employed people's self-assessment tax return, is the working from home tax deduction. So today we're going to go through the calculation you need to use in order to calculate your working from home costs, what we can include and what we can't include. We are going to do a really important capital gains tax point, which if you miss this, you could get caught with capital gains tax implications, so you don't want to miss that one. And then we're going to go through a simplified method. So if you can't be bothered with all this hassle, there is another simple method that you can use in order to calculate your working from home costs. Now, most of us are going to be able to claim something here, whether you just work from home, 4 hours a day, whether you work from home permanently, there should be something we can claim. So this is the more in-depth calculation. So you're going to have a little bit more work to do here. So types of costs that we can claim if we're working from home. First up, we've got fixed costs. So within our fixed costs, we're going to have things like council tax, insurance, mortgage interest. So that isn't the full amount of your mortgage, it is only the interest percentage. Hopefully that will be split out on your mortgage statements for you, so make sure you're not taking the full amount. If you're renting, you can have your rental costs. Now you can have your full amount of rental because obviously there is no capital element in rental costs. We want to get your total fixed costs for the year. So in this example, I'm saying that my total fixed cost for the year is £6,000. Then we're going to have our variable costs. So that's going to be things like lighting, heating, telephone, internet. And in this example, my total costs for the year are going to be £2,000 in that category. So let's have a look at what we're going to do in order to calculate our tax deduction. So as an example, I'm going to use a house which has 10 rooms just for ease of the calculation so we can see what's happening. So 10 rooms in the house. Hours per day work from home, 4 hours a day work from home. Hours per day that the room is used by family is going to be 2 hours a day. Now, I've included this because it's very important that we don't use this room exclusively for business purposes. If we do that, then we are going to have capital gains tax implications when we sell our property. So for background, when we sell our principal private residences, there's usually no tax due. However, if you're using one room exclusively for business purposes, then you're going to have a capital gains tax problem. So guess what? You just don't use it exclusively for business purposes. You always have an element of private use in there. So let's apportion out our costs based on this. So our fixed costs, we're going to say £6,000. We're using one of our 10 rooms in our house. So it's going to be £6,000 times 10% because 10% of our house is used for our business. Then 4 hours per day, we use our room for business purposes. So 4 divided by 24 hours a day times 600, which is our 10% of our total costs. And that will be £100 deduction per year. Very easy there. Now, I know someone's going to say, oh, I can't calculate the exact number of hours that I spend working from home. Okay, well, let's do an apportioned amount. This doesn't have to be an exact science. We all realise that we are not recording every single hour that we are ticking off from home. HMRC just wants us to be doing a sensible apportionment. So if you come to a sensible apportionment that's £100 a year, that's going to be fine for HMRC. If you come to some crazy big figure, that's going to cause an issue. We're always looking relatively. Is it reasonable? Is that reasonable? If I'm working 8 hours a day from home, I'm going to have a much higher amount claimed than if I work, 20 hours a month from home. It's going to be very, very different. So the variable costs. Let's see the calculation we're going to use for these. So I've got £2,000 a year of variable costs. So I'm going to do 2,000 times 10% because we've got 10 rooms in our house. We're using one of them rooms. Then we're going to do, the variable costs are going to be apportioned out by the amount of hours that we use the room. So 4 hours a day, I'm using it for work. 2 hours a day, I'm using it for family. So I'm using it a total of 6 hours a day. So then I've got my 4 working hours divided by 6, which is the total amount of time that I use the room for a day, times £200, which is the 10% figure up here. So that is £133. So my total claim for the year will be these two figures added together, which comes to £233. So £233, not a massive amount. Now, if you take that off your tax bill, what is the overall tax impact? It's quite small. So we're not going to be living and dying here with this. We're using a reasonable apportionment. I'm going to link below some HMRC guidance for you, and that gives you different apportionment methods that they find to be acceptable. There's quite a few examples in there, and it's really helpful if you're just looking for a little bit more guidance or if you don't want to do this full calculation. The simplified method to calculate your working from home tax deduction if you're self-employed is so easy to follow. It's based on hours. Let's have a look at it together. This means that nobody should be missing out on a tax deductible expense. Even if you're submitting on the 30th of Jan and you're watching this video, make sure you're putting something in this box using this basis. We're going to be based on business hours per month, and then we're going to have a flat rate deduction per month. That means you don't have to go and find any of your bills. This is just literally hours, tax deduction, done. So if you're spending 25 to 50 hours per month working from home, you can have a £10 per month tax deduction. If you're spending 51 to 100 hours per month working from home, it's £18 a month tax deduction. And if you're working over 100 hours per month from home, you can get £26. Let's do an example. If I was working 25 hours a month from home and I was able to claim £10 a month, that would be £120 working from home tax deduction to go on my tax return. So I am absolutely positive that you will be able to claim some type of tax deduction using this method, even if you don't want to go through all your bills. Make sure you do it, because otherwise the revenue is just taking money that could be in your pocket.